In this next part, let's take a look at how to set up our frequency table and our histogram. So the first thing we're going to need to do is set up our bins, or kind of our categories, where we're going to place all our data into. So think of these kind of like as buckets, and you're tossing each number into a different bucket or different bin. So I'm just going to label this down here, bins. And I know that our minimum is a little over 40,000 and our max is under 100,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create these bins that we're going to place all our data into. So I want to make sure that the range of my bins, from my smallest bin to my largest bin, is able to accommodate my data. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my smallest bin. Let's go at like 40,000. So 40,000. And let's just go by 10. So we'll go 40, 50,000. Oops, missed a zero there. And we'll go 60,000. Enter. Enter takes me down to the next cell. 70,000, 80,000, 90,000, and 100,000. Okay, now I'm just going to do some quick formatting. Just kind of, let's go. Okay, now one thing, let's before we go too much further, I noticed that my standard deviation and my mode from before don't look like money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on, highlight both those cells and right click. And I'm going to go where it says Format Cells. I'm going to go in the little dialog box that opens up. I'm going to go to where it says Currency. And I don't want to have any decimal places. I'm not worried about like pennies and stuff like that. So I'm just going to say I want 0 decimal places, because I just want whole numbers. And now my mode and my standard deviation represent money versus before they didn't. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to highlight from 40,000 to 100,000, all those cells. I'm going to right click, say I want to format cells, go to, in the number tab, go to where it says currency with 0 decimal places, so just whole numbers, and click OK, and there we go. So now we have these bins from 40 to 100,000. Okay, so now what we're going to do is up on top where all the tools are. I'm going to click on the one that says data. I'm going to go all the way to the right where it says data analysis. And I have some choices here. I'm going to select histogram. Click OK. And the first thing it says, okay, well, show me all your input. Show me all your data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that little symbol, and I'm going to highlight my data. So from here all the way down. Okay, so those are the numbers I want to use. So now I'll hit enter. And now it says, okay, show me where your bin range is. So I'm going to go back to where we typed them in. Excuse me. And select the little symbol, highlight them, hit enter. And I'm going to want to say, I'm going to show you where, so don't put it on a new sheet, but rather put it on this sheet and I'll show you where. So I'm going to click on it and then show where I want to put the data. So like right there, I'll hit enter. And I'm going to want it to see a chart. So I'm going to put the chart option here. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it gives me my chart, which is right here. And it gives me my histogram. So let me stretch this out a little bit more so I can move this up so I can kind of reposition my chart. Actually, I'm going to kind of bring it right over here. Maybe bring it down a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to make these a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go to my back to home. Maybe make them bold, size 14. Okay. So below 40,000, there was nobody who made before 40,000. So that's why 40 over here is empty. So this line right here represents 40,000. So 40,000 down, nobody. Between 40,000 and 50,000, there were 22 of these degrees that went between 40 and 50. Between 50 and 60, there was 48. Between 60 and 70, we had 28. Between 70 and 80, we had 2. Between 80 and 90, we had 1. And between 90 and 100, we had 1. And there was nobody who made over 100,000 in their first part of their career. So that's how you set up your histogram and your table. So the first thing you do is define your bins, and then we'll use those bins to create our histogram, because those are the kind of the buckets or bins that we toss the data into. So again, the little lines represent this number, is this line right here. So under 40, between 40 50, between 50 60, between 60 and 70, between 70 80, 80 90, 90 100. So go ahead and set up your histogram and your frequency table here for the data that appears in column D, early career pay.